All right, everybody. It's the Working Fans Podcast with the man called Dave. And today I'm interviewing independent wrestler, a man who's been on the scene for about 3 years now, a guy that I got to watch do Outcast Wrestling Revolution. He's been killing it. He's a name you're probably going to hear more of, I have a feeling, in the near future, if you haven't already. I'm talking about the powerful one, Ken Powers.
Yeah. How you doing tonight, Dave?
I'm doing great, Ken. And one thing like that, I saw you at Outcast Wrestling Revolution, but you've been at this for about 3 years now?
Yeah, give or take. 3 years on the actual independent wrestling scene.
Okay. And you started training at 3D Academy?
So, fun little backstory. I first started training back in like 2013, 2014-ish. I spent about an 8-month stint at New England Pro Wrestling Academy. This is back in the day. Unfortunately, at that time, I was also in college. So balancing driving back and forth from Connecticut to 3 to 4 days a week, plus wrestling, plus college, like it just caught up to me. So I had to take a break. But then when I fully got into like my wrestling training, yes, it was Team 3D.
Awesome. And when did you start at 3D Academy then?
So I started in 2020. Which is hilarious that I started in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah, so I started late June of 2020 over there. And then, spent about a little less than 2 years from after I started. It was like just under 2 years by the time I took my first independent booking.
Now, do you think starting in the pandemic for you personally, was that you think that was a blessing in disguise? Or, was it maybe like, man, I wish we could have got the door kicking a little sooner?
As far as once my training was done and getting my name out there as far as the independent scene, I think it was a little bit of a hindrance because obviously we had that little bit of awkward growth period after the pandemic where like some companies didn't come back and some companies were running a lot smaller and like independent wrestling was starting to find its like feeding again. But as far as the actual training is concerned, weirdly enough, I feel like being in the pandemic almost helped because of the fact that, well, especially at the beginning of that time period, so probably about that first year with the pandemic going on, I wasn't actively working a shoot job. So I literally was just wrestling training, strongman training, and resting. And that was it. I'm blessed to have been in a position where I could do that for a year. And then even then, once I got a year in, I was able to easily transition to having the full-time job again back in my field and then still wrestling, still training strongman, and doing everything I love.
I'm glad you brought up strongman training because, I know just from like watching your social media, you do a lot of powerlifting and you're always training. Has training been there and working out and that love of lifting been there before wrestling about the same time, or what came first?
That's a good question. I would say love of wrestling is definitely first, just because I've loved wrestling since I was like a little kid. That. The story I always love telling people is back when I was about 4 years old, I was watching wrestling with my dad. And I remember it's like Sunday Night Heat. It's Hardy Boys and the Highlanders. It's such a random combination. Yeah. But but I watched that match. And then after that match ended, my dad loves telling me this story too. I turned to my dad and I said, I'm going to do that when I'm old. He was like, at the time, like, yeah, sure, son. Yeah. But lo and behold, it took a little bit longer than expected, but I'm doing the thing.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I haven't thought about the Highlanders in forever. And that's now I know that match definitely happened because that's what got you into wrestling. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so then what point do you fall in love or get involved in powerlifting?
So powerlifting and strongman are slightly different things. I'm going to go ahead and clarify this.
It's fine.
So powerlifting is what people understand, the typical 3 main lifts. So it's squat, bench, deadlift. You go into competition, you just do those 3 lifts. That's it. Strongman, on the other hand, is a series of different events depending on the competition, where it's just about seeing who can move the most weight, however you're doing it. So we have things like axle deadlifts, clean and presses, logs, circus dumbbells, Atlas stones, farmer's carries, yokes, fucking, I don't know if I can swear here.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll try to limit it, but I think I asked. But things of that nature, like even Hercules hold is just an insane lift where you're literally holding out weights by your arms and trying not to like let your grip slip. But yeah, I've loved lifting as a whole probably since 2010-ish. That was right around high school age for me. I was lifting a lot for football, and I was lifting for wrestling, and I was lifting for track and field. So doing those things because of those sports, I actually grew a big appreciation for weightlifting as a whole. And originally I considered competing in powerlifting, but just for me, the spectacle of strongman is so much more interesting to me. Like strongman is like, it's the professional wrestling of weightlifting.
Yeah.
Like that's how I see it. It's because it's so many different things. You have so many different personalities, especially like if you look at the guys at the top of the game, like old school. Well, it's funny to call them old school because they haven't competed in like a couple years and like five plus for some of these guys. But like Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, Thor just got back into strongman, like Hathor, Mitchell Hooper, Trey, like all these guys are like, they have these, you know, larger than life personalities, but it's also weightlifting. So it's a combination of both things I love.
It's funny, as you're telling us, even before you said that, I'm like, he's going to say it's the pro wrestling. And that makes so much sense. You start thinking of like, you know, just the spectacle of lifting like a giant boulder or something like that. Or actually, yeah, that makes sense. It's you're leaning into the entertainment aspect of something that's highly competitive, which obviously you can say about pro wrestling. How did you get involved in strongman competition?
Luckily, so during the pandemic, I started working with a coach. I don't work with him anymore, but I love the man. Shout out to Damien. You can follow him at Raider Fitness. He was the guy who kind of got me in the right direction as far as my like post pandemic like fitness journey, got me back to the strength level I want, to the size, to the relative like look that I love. But he and I also share a love and appreciation of strongman. He also formerly competed in strongman. So luckily here in Connecticut, we have probably the best strongman gym in the Northeast, potentially in the world. It's up in South Windsor called Lightning Fitness. It's run by this great dude named Matt. He's a bodybuilder, power lifter, strongman. Like he's done it all. But that gym has access to basically every strongman implement. And every year they run their own local strongman competitions. So the first one, and so far the only one to date that I've done, although I plan to do another one next year, finally, you know, balancing out the time with the wrestling. But the first one I did was at that gym, and I placed 4th out of like 15. Which was pretty good.
While we're on the sort of strongman competition, what would you say, was that what you consider your greatest accomplishment then? At being in that competition, placing 4th? Or what would you say is your best accomplishment in that?
In strongman, yeah, that's my greatest accomplishment. Just because like the fact that I was willing to take that step and go forward and compete in front of people and place as well as I did. It's funny that like looking back, I never really checked the score sheets at the time because I was like, oh, I placed 4th. Fantastic. But then I look back at the points, and I was actually a half point off of top 3. Like legitimately, if I had gotten like one more rep on the deadlift, or if I had gotten just a little bit faster on the yoke or the farmer's carry, I would have placed top 3 and medaled in my first competition, which would have been amazing. Yeah. But the fact that I was able to do that and perform as well as I did in my first competition against guys who've been doing it significantly longer than me, guys who I was in the heavyweight division at that point. So guys who had like 60, 70, 80 pounds on me, the fact that I was able to keep up with them, I'm like, okay, there's something here.
So heavyweight division and strongman, that sounds almost similar to like boxing or MMA, where there's a giant weight gap for those who don't know. Like if you say like in MMA, if you're 185 pounds, you're a middleweight and you can be a little bit less. And the next division up is like light heavyweight. It's 205. But after like 205, 206, you could be a heavyweight, but I think the cap off is like 265 or something. So is that similar in strongman then?
Similar vibes. There's only 3 divisions in strongman. So you have lightweight, you have middleweight, and you have heavyweight. Lightweight usually caps at around 170. Middleweight caps at 232 typically. Okay. And then heavyweight is everybody else.
Gotcha.
There is no upper limit. Like if you look at it doesn't happen as much nowadays in professional strongman. Top end, like World's Strongest Man, like Arnold's, like Rogue Invitational competitors are kind of leaning out a little bit more in comparison to the old days. But like back when like a Brian Shaw or like Thor, or Eddie Hall, like when they won their World's Strongest Man titles, those men were over 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Like those, and to be fair, those men are larger than life. Like Thor is like 6'8", Brian Shaw is like 6'10", Eddie Hall is like 6'2". So those guys carrying, like, even them carrying 400 pounds, like you could see visibly like how large these men really get.
So I guess switching back to wrestling too, like what would you say your greatest accomplishment has been in pro wrestling for yourself so far?
Oh God. There's been so many. Like, I think at this point in my career, it's probably getting the opportunity to main event with Dijak. So this happened about this time last year. We were working for this company, Planet Pro Wrestling. They do a charity show every year. And this is like fresh off of release Dijak. Yeah. This is like maybe a month or two after getting released. And the fact that I was trusted to get in the ring with him in the main event and hold my own and be able to, carry a good match. And we had a very solid match. Like, for what it was worth, I'm very happy with it. His response afterwards was he was very happy with it. So for this point in my career, that is the current best, but I am also nowhere near close to what I want to be. And I know there's so much more I have left in the tank. There's so much more I have left to contribute to this business that within the next, I'd say, year or two, I will easily have passed.
And that same token, I guess, thinking about it, nothing comes necessarily easy. What were some of the tougher obstacles for you in the beginning of this business? Or obviously, I'm sure you're still working constantly hard, but what would you say were some of the tougher aspects of this business for you?
Weirdly enough, like seeing me now really being that pro wrestler kind of like over the top, like not like excessively, but like getting that balance of like just enough energy, but not too much. I think that took me a little bit because naturally I am a relatively like introverted person. Like I'm not super outgoing. Like I'm comfortable with my friends group, but for the most part, if I don't know you, I'm not going to exactly be like over the top, like, oh, hey, great to see you. As far as the non-physical side of things, it'd be that. The physical side, luckily, I've been lucky to have been pretty well like prepared for the majority of it. Like my previous time at New England Pro got me a lot of the basics there. And luckily at Team 3D Academy, I had fantastic coaches, Randy Shawn and Bully Ray. Fantastic. But also the people I was surrounded with at the time at the school, like the other students, like both on my level and the higher level students. I was very lucky to have a great group around me to help me work through some of those like pain points.
Interesting. And yeah, I think comedians call it like finding your voice. When we were talking about earlier about terms of like, that picking it up a notch on the pro wrestling personality side, getting that large in life. And I can say firsthand from watching it in the ring, it is a completely different animal when you get in that ring.
Yeah. It's so funny because like people behind the scenes will like see this, but like backstage before a match, I'm usually like pacing back and forth. I'm fucking like, I'm working myself up. Because like internally, I'm like, oh no, like I gotta bring it every time I come out that curtain. It doesn't matter if I'm in front of 550, 500, 5,000. It does not matter the size. The fact that I am going out there and putting my body on the line, I'm going to bring it every single time.
One thing about Outcast Wrestling Revolution, like the shows that I went to when I saw you there, I'd say particularly with their shows, although you could probably speak from other promotions too, but I feel like there's a lot of crowd interaction. And I can see that in like that promotion. And were you able to really hone that from, you think? Just having that ability.
I mean, a lot of it has just been trial and error. A lot of it has just been getting out there, working shows, getting my name out there, like constantly trying new things as far as interacting. But I think that is one of the greatest benefits of independent wrestling is the fact that we can have that like one-on-one connection where like I can go out of my way to point out a specific end of the crowd and just be like, no, you in particular, like I'm interact with you. Like the last OWR show I was at, I was making fun of a guy because he was wearing a banana costume. Like you can't do that on TV, but like he's wearing a banana. Like, am I not going to like say something about that? Of course I'm going to say something about that. But I think that's the benefit too, is like fans come into this knowing like, okay, on this level, you're going to get a little bit of back and forth. And the fans who like really like play and try to like go back and forth with you make things so much easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. 3 years, like you said, you feel like you're going to be a lot bigger and have a lot more accomplishments. Obviously, that's always the right attitude to have. What would you say in the meantime are some of your goals in the next couple of years?
My main goal right now, I've put this out on my private social medias, but obviously it's just something that's personal to me. My main goal for the next couple of years is to wrestle in Japan. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care who I got to get through, who I got to like, what I got to do. That is the goal, is Japan. Obviously, secondarily, I would love to finally have the opportunity to win my first heavyweight singles title. Obviously, I've held a mid-card title for Titan, and I've held multiple tag team championships alongside my boy Tiko Kosenko. But finally having that opportunity to stand atop the mountain of a promotion and be like, no, I am the man. I am the guy here. That's more of a smaller thing. I mean, outside of that, I would love the opportunity to maybe get a dark match on some of the local, like some of the bigger promotions. So something like a TNA or like an NWA or like MLW, Ring of Honor, like just more opportunities to like get in front of those bigger audiences and really like show what I can provide to the audience and to the companies. Like obviously that's always going to be a goal.
Absolutely. That's good to hear. I think your head's on the right place. Before we finish up the regular, we're going to have a Patreon exclusive for people listening to this. So before we finish up though, do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media?
Of course. So you can find me on all platforms. So right now, I don't call it the other name. It's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and on Twitch as well at the Ken Powers. Twitch is a little different. It's _Ken Powers. I don't know why they won't let me have the full name. I'm working on that. But for now, it's at the Ken Powers on all platforms. I'm always posting about both my fitness journey and also professional wrestling and maybe some nerd stuff on the side. I mean, I love Pokemon, so I'll probably posted about that too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ken. We're going to continue on, though, for the Patreon fans. But before we get over that, here's a quick ad. Hey, fans, it's the man they call Dave with producer Joe. And you probably know us as the commentary team for New Heights Pro Wrestling. But when we're not doing that, we got a podcast.
That is the Working Fans Podcast, where we talk pro wrestling, comedy, MMA, and so much more.
And tell them about that signature segment.
Oh, you talk about the 531?
You know I am.
That is a homegrown creation that has been our namesake. And if you want to know our namesake, we got Chevy, AJ Strange Brew, as well as the two of us.
And why don't you go to our channel, like, subscribe, show us some love.
Rate, review, all of it.